thank you all very much for joining us today for a very special webinar. You are tuning in to the Michigan LCB People, Planet, Public Health webinar series. We started holding these events, these webinars during the pandemic. Right when it started last year, we used these engagements to really pull people together and provide topics that were interesting and dynamic, involving focusing on climate change, clean water, energy, voter protection, and much, much more. Over the past year, we have held dozens of these webinars with leaders from the local, state, and federal levels, with frontline activists, experts, doctors, nurses, authors, and many others. All of the recordings from every one of these past webinars can be found on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/MichiganLCB. For today's event, we are very excited to have another outstanding lineup of speakers. And this lineup will folks will talk about extremely important issues, including access to healthy food. How and where we get our food not only impacts our health, but also the health of our local economies, and our land and our water. Here in Michigan, we have a robust agricultural industry and rural economy. Yet people living in many of our large cities don't have ample access to fresh and healthy foods. In Michigan alone, 1 in 8 people face hunger, and 1 in 7 of those are children, according to Feeding America. And access to healthy food is a basic need for everyone in our state and across the nation, just like affordable drinking water and clean air to breathe. While we work to increase access to food in our state, it is imperative that we also make sure that we produce our food in sustainable ways, and local economies and farmers benefit. Buying local produce and using sustainable farming practices also plays an important role in mitigating climate change by limiting the carbon footprint from agricultural production, nutrient runoff, and more. Our speakers will dive into all of these issues today, as well as discuss the looming threat of climate change, which is having widespread impacts to our agricultural sector with extreme weather events. We've just had a number of those just this summer, changing weather patterns, and uncertainty for farmers who produce our food. Our event, appropriately titled, Maintaining Food Access in the Face of Climate Change, includes US Senator Debbie Stabenow, Orrin Hesterman, the founder and CEO of Fair Food Network, and Q Broden, founder and executive chef of The Kitchen by Cooking with Q, located in Detroit. Each speaker brings a unique perspective to these issues, providing us with lively and important discussion about the ties between healthy food access, sustainable farming, and climate change. Before we get into our program, I'd like to remind you all that we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the program, where we'll take as many questions as possible from the audience. So for those of you tuning in via Zoom, please click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and type your question in there. And for those of you joining us via Facebook Live, please submit your questions in the comment section of the live stream. We'll also be launching a poll during the presentation with opportunities to get involved with Michigan LCB. Now I'd like to introduce our very first speaker, US Senator Debbie Stabenow. Senator Stabenow has served the people of Michigan in the US Senate since 2000, when she became the first woman from Michigan elected to the United States Senate. During her time in office, Senator Stabenow has been a champion for Michigan, working to protect our Great Lakes and in securing funding for critical natural resources year after year. One of the first laws she helped pass after being elected to the Senate was a law to ban oil and gas drilling in the Great Lakes. Senator Stabenow has also been a leading force in agricultural policy to support Michigan farmers and our food systems. She has served as the chairwoman of the Senate Agricultural Committee, where she helped make historic investments in land and water conservation, clean energy, and local food systems, as the author of the 2014 Farm Bill. Our senior senator then built on that success in 2018 when she co-authored the 2018 Farm Bill, continuing to support Michigan farmers while ensuring our land, water, and local food systems are protected. Senator Stabenow's track record of success has established her as a true national leader on agricultural policy and food access. As a side note, Senator Stabenow has another engagement and will have to drop off before the end of our program. So we'll ask her just one question, I think, after her remarks. But we are incredibly grateful that you've been able to join us today, Senator Stabenow. Welcome.
Well, Lisa, it's always Always wonderful to be with you. And I'm so grateful for everything the Michigan League of Conservation Voters does. And also so very grateful for the partnership that I have with Orrin Hesterman, with Fair Food Network, a longtime friend and partner on all of these issues. I love Kiana Broden, what you are doing, bringing healthy food to Detroit and beyond. And, there's so much to talk about here. So I'm just excited and grateful to be able to connect with you today. And I really appreciate the fact that you're recognizing both climate sustainability and local food and nutrition are all related. They are all related. And we've never had a more important time to discuss these issues. That is for sure. We have both, as we know, we have a climate crisis and we have a hunger crisis. And the hunger crisis has gotten worse with the pandemic. And so I am laser focused on both of those. And frankly, food can be a solution to both of these issues through climate smart agriculture and forestry policies, which I'm leading on, and also connecting Americans to healthy local food. All of it fits together. And here in Michigan, our farmers are seeing, we're all seeing it, but farmers are seeing the most extreme effects of climate change right now, and everything that's happening with our Great Lakes. I mean, we're all seeing it. The Great Lakes are warming faster than the oceans. This is a 5-alarm fire here, and a moment, all hands on deck moment. And I appreciate, understand that, and am very focused in everything I do every day in addressing this from a lot of different angles. I will say with our farmers, though, our farmers and ranchers and foresters, they are also poised to lead in addressing the climate crisis. And I've been working for 10 years now to engage and have our farmers understand as stewards of the land, and that they have an important role to play. And we are seeing more and more efforts on climate smart conservation. But now, for the first time, we actually have the major agricultural groups in this country coming together to say, yes, we know there is a climate crisis and we want to be involved in doing something about it. And we're in a position to move forward much more aggressively now, which is why the effort that I've been leading, called Growing Climate Solutions, is very, very important. And it's a first step, but we know that agriculture is about 10% of the carbon emissions. And we know that with the right investments and aggressive efforts and incentives, that we can see this sector be actually carbon negative by 2030, not carbon neutral, carbon negative. And so I'm very focused on how we do that. And we have partnerships and attention now that we haven't had before. And we really need to take advantage of this moment. And so we've passed a framework bill through USDA with a huge bipartisan vote that we never would have gotten 10 years ago. 10 years ago, if I had put the word climate in the title of a bill, I never would have gotten it passed. And so we are seeing a real shift and momentum that I'm pushing very hard to move aggressively on. Also in the American Jobs Plan, President Biden's American Jobs Plan, I'm leading efforts to have, again, climate smart investments in agriculture conservation policy and forestry policy, both very, very important. And we want to support all types of production, from fruits and vegetables to organics and local food as well. And it's important to stress that local and regional food systems also support climate resiliency. And shorter supply chains can mean a smaller carbon footprint, for example. Michigan agriculture is driven, frankly, right now by local food and local farmers. And we want to continue to strengthen that. And that's why I've fought very hard for strong local food programs in the farm bills, both 2014 when I chaired the Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, 2018 as the ranking Democrat, and now in the slimmest of majorities in the United States Senate, I am back chairing the committee and setting the agenda. And so whether it's our Farm Bill policy, our climate policy, COVID-19 help, what we're doing on supply chains, all of these things are now very much on the agenda. Things like the local agriculture market program, which I made permanent in the last Farm Bill, supports direct-to-consumer marketing and promotion of local markets and value-added production for local farmers. We also, in the American Rescue Plan, included a bill I wrote to support small and mid-sized processors, meat processors, other processors. Let's have them be local, be closer to communities and local farmers. It also provides more money for purchases from local farmers and what they grow. You know, the climate crisis really poses a threat, as we know, to both food security, and the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the gaps in the hunger safety net that so many families rely on as well. Lisa mentioned Feeding America projects that 42 million people, including 1 out of 6 children, experience food insecurity this year in America. In our COVID-19 response efforts, I included a lot of flexibilities to make sure that nutrition programs could keep serving people during the pandemic. We created a new program for children that weren't in school, getting a healthy meal in school, called the Pandemic EBT program to help kids get the food they need. We provided increases in benefits for families through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, very important, and provided additional benefits so that moms can get more fruits and vegetables for their children through the WIC program. Incredibly important program for pregnant moms and newborns and moms through children as they're growing up in the first 5 years. And we also did something that Orrin was a leader of Fair Food Network, really has been the creator and leader of, and we provided resources for nutrition incentives that help families access more healthy foods through the SNAP program, through food assistance, like Michigan's Double Up Bucks program. Yeah, you know, back when I took over as chair in 2011 in the Senate, Orrin and I were fighting tooth and nail for a small incentive program, trying to prove what we knew, that by making it easier for people to get access to healthy foods, we could actually improve their health and their food security at the same time. And we knew it could work because it started in Michigan. It worked in Michigan. And so our Double Up Bucks program incentivized the purchase of fruits and vegetables through SNAP, and it was a smashing success. 2014, in the Farm Bill that I wrote as chair, we used that success to do a nationwide pilot program. In 2018, we were able to make the program permanent. And today, this success story that started in Michigan has grown nationwide. It has bipartisan support. Everywhere we expand our partners to more farmers markets, direct to consumer and retail options. And now we're looking at how we can leverage technology to expand it even further. And it started right in Michigan. Another vital program I continue to fight for is the Healthy Food Financing Initiative, which funds the Good Food Fund to help us finance sustainable local businesses. And I think from my standpoint, what that program is all about is making sure that everybody has access to healthy food regardless of your zip code, which is an incredibly important value. So right now, I'm focused on passing the President's American Families Plan and more assistance, more food assistance, more assistance for children in school and summer programs, a child nutrition bill to make it easier for students and families to get the healthy food they need. And as we come out of the pandemic, I am very focused now as we are looking at moving forward at a major in agriculture conservation and forestry practices that improve resiliency and expand local food systems and increase to local food, that these are part of the investments that we are making. So this is an important moment. We have a lot to do. The Michigan League of Conservation Voters is at the front of the line as advocates and leaders in all of this. And I'm just proud to be your partner. Thanks.
Senator Stabenow, thank you so much. We are so proud to have you representing us in Washington, D.C. and doing all the amazing work that you are doing on the climate and food front, not to mention so many other issues. So I hope you can stay with us as long as possible, but knowing that you do have another engagement. And before we introduce our other guests, I thought it would be important to at least provide you with one question from our audience today. So we do have one question. It's from Terry. And Terry asks, are there provisions in your bill that make sure that additional carbon is actually removed from the atmosphere from practices by farmers and foresters, and not just providing incentives for good environmental practices that are already happening?
Absolutely. First, let me say that we're doing a number of things. First, we want to get more farmers involved in more aggressive efforts to remove carbon, keep carbon in the ground, remove carbon from the air, as well as things like methane digesters and, using methane to power the farm in terms of electricity, as opposed to putting what is even more dangerous than carbon, which is methane or nitrogen oxide, back into the air. And so that what we're doing through Department of Ag is creating tools and support from farmers to get additional support and partnership funding around conservation. They're already doing a lot of conservation, but we want to do more. And then if they want to take the next step, and this is important, to measure the additional carbon that they are taking, not what they've been doing, but it's got to be additive. If they are doing new work that is bringing the carbon out of the atmosphere, and we measure it for the first time. I mean, right now, there's not a good way to measure it. Somebody said to me, one of the farmers said, it's like the Wild, Wild West. And in fact, what happens right now is that somebody, usually from Wall Street investor, will come out and tell somebody, hey, we got a deal for you and you can sell carbon credits. And there's no integrity, there's no transparency, there's no measurements from experts on any of this. And it doesn't work. And so we want to design a carbon market that for farmers, where they're getting, if there's going to be dollars coming in, they're receiving it, as well as foresters and so on. And credibility, so that somebody at the USDA is indicating to them that you have done X. It's measurable on the carbon. We're going to give you sort of the USDA stamp of approval here on what you've done as sustainability. And then if you want, you can take that into private carbon markets and try to sell carbon credits. And if we can create a market for them where they're actually creating revenue, I mean, if we can create carbon as a commodity, then we have a win-win here, because then you have additional incentives for farmers to do even more. But it is not about what folks are already doing. It is about measuring, additive, additional efforts that need to be done. And that's absolutely critical. Otherwise, because what we are doing is measuring a range of things that we're putting out in terms of resources that show if all of this is done. And it's not only carbon, we have something called the REAP program, Rural Energy Assistance Program, to help farmers put solar panels on the house and the barn, put wind turbines out on the farm, to do, again, methane digesters that capture these horrible greenhouse gases and other things that will create more energy efficiency and so on. So if you do all of this, we can get net zero dairy farms, for example, in terms of emissions and so on, then we're in a position where agriculture can actually take more greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere than they are producing and be net zero by 2030. And I'm working in the auto economy with electric vehicles and working with clean energy manufacturing and working on getting a price on carbon and a whole range of things. I'm working on all of it, actually. But at this point, the only sector that could get to carbon negative at the moment is in agriculture and forestry. Now they're about 10% of the market, but hey, we need 10% is 10%. And so if we can do this and they can, take 10% emissions and instead make it 11% or 12%, on the good side of the ledger, I'll take it.
Absolutely. That's very helpful. Thank you. And I do hope you can stay as long as possible. I'm privileged to introduce your friend who you've referenced many times in this conversation, Oren Hesterman, next. I know, as you've mentioned, the two of you have worked very closely together on a number of fronts, helping all of us become healthier in so many ways, but especially those who lack access to healthy, fresh food. So it is my pleasure to introduce Oren. He is the founder and CEO of the Fair Food Network. Fair Food Network is a national nonprofit based right here in Michigan that works to connect people to the power of food to grow community, health, and wealth. Since its founding, the Fair Food Network has worked to implement nutrition incentives like the Double Up Food Bucks that Senator Stabenow referenced to bring healthy food to every family. And their Impact Investing Arm and Fair Food Fund have helped to support local food entrepreneurs to drive innovation for a more equitable future. Oren has been truly the driving force for Fair Food Network. And with more than 35 years in the agricultural sector as a scientist, a farmer, a philanthropist, a businessman, an educator, he has been a champion for sustainable agriculture and food systems for a long time, especially in this role. He's published more than 400 reports and articles on a vast array of topics, ranging from crop rotation to the impact of philanthropy on food systems practices and policy and trends in the good food movement. And his work has truly impacted millions of people in Michigan and across the nation. I am thrilled to turn it over to Oren, but I think it's my job to play a short video from Fair Food Network first. Oren, thank you for being with us. Welcome.
Well, Lisa, thank you for the invitation. It's really an honor to be with you. And thanks to the Michigan League of Conservation Voters for bringing us together today, and for all you folks do to protect our land, air, and water. And Senator Stabenow, thank you for your remarks today. It's great to see you today. As our home state senator, I am so proud to be represented by someone who has been such a steadfast champion of agriculture and farming and nutrition. It's really great to work with you over all these years.
Well, you know what? I've got to hop off, but Oren, I wanted to make sure and just to say hello to you. And they're pulling me back over to the Senate, but I love working with you and Fair Food Network, and we're going to continue to do great things together.
Okay, I look forward to it. Thank you for your work.
Thanks.
You know, as we begin to emerge from the pandemic, we're confronted with a lot of challenges that this past year shone a light on and exacerbated: hunger, economic inequality, racial injustice. But we're also turning our sights to other issues that really feel equally as urgent, as we see many of our neighbors struggle with record high temperatures, wildfires out of control, record rainfall, all of which further exposes the fragility of all of our systems. And you know, while these things may seem distinct, you saw in the Why Food video just now that food is a powerful lever to fix many of the issues we are facing, all at the same time. It's really this core belief in the power of food that is at the heart of our work at Fair Food Network and has really shaped my career. I believe that food is the system, along with water, that all lives depend on. And I know many of you agree with me on that. And when we tap the power of and potential of food, we can generate multiple benefits that drive towards greater health and wealth equity and environmental regeneration. Let me provide just a couple of examples of how we can address many of these issues we're facing at the same time when we do it through the lens of food. You just heard Senator Stabenow refer to the Double Up Food Bucks program, which matches SNAP or food stamp dollars so families have more access to affordable fruits and vegetables. Indeed, we started this program in Detroit back in 2009. It's now a statewide effort in almost 300 locations in Michigan, in 29 states across the country and counting. Now, I imagine that most of you think of Double Up as a food access program, helping families experiencing poverty gain access to more affordable food. It is also an economic development program, helping local farmers gain new customers and increase their income. And we know it's particularly helpful for beginning farmers and those early in their farming career. But you know, looked at from another lens, Double Up helps shift diets by supporting more families to have greater access to more produce. So it's also a public health and environmental intervention, because we know eating lower on the food chain is a powerful climate solution. I just think it is so cool that the diet that's healthiest for our bodies is the same diet that's good for the planet. You know, with the strides that Senator Stabenow told us about with the federal farm bill, expanding support for programs like Double Up, we're now seeing these programs benefit hundreds of thousands of families, thousands of farmers, and hundreds of local businesses. I cannot thank Senator Stabenow enough for her recent leadership during this past year when she secured COVID response funding that's helping efforts across Michigan and across the country in response to an unprecedented surge in hunger that's impacting our communities. And while nutrition incentives have had an incredible national growth in the past decade, we now have the opportunity to really scale this impact even further while we're exploring sustained funding as a strong public-private partnership. One area we are exploring is how healthcare and private investors could be engaged to provide more stability by outcome-based financing. And we're hoping to get that conversation off the ground with Senator Stabenow and others in the coming months. You know, as we do this work in food systems, we need to remember that food is a market-based system. We can change the system to one that's more healthful for families, more economically supportive of local farmers, and more resilient to disruptions in both climate and the economy by shifting the marketplace. We do this at Fair Food Network through our growing work in impact investing, supporting mission-driven food businesses. While Fair Food Network has our own impact investing arm, in Michigan, a lot of our work in this arena is through what you heard Senator Stabenow talk about, the Michigan Good Food Fund. It's a 6-year-old statewide loan fund which provides financing and business assistance to food entrepreneurs who are making a difference in their community. We're committed to supporting entrepreneurs who may not always be able to access more traditional financing and other resources needed to start and grow their businesses, including many entrepreneurs of color and women who are working to bring healthier food to their communities, creating much needed jobs while supporting local farmers and reducing environmental impacts. One such business that we've been able to invest in, you're going to hear from today, and that's Q Broden's Cooking with Q, a Detroit-based business that is hitting on all of these cylinders. It's right on Woodward Avenue. When you get to Detroit next, you got to check it out. And I'm so glad you're going to be hearing from her directly. So to sum it up, when we reimagine our food system, we're also making strides towards solving many of the most pressing issues we are facing: health, economic justice, and climate, all at the same time. I really believe we're blessed to have leaders like Senator Stabenow guiding our national food and agriculture policy to create more fertile ground for all of the work you're hearing about today. And we're blessed to have community business leaders like Q showing us how it's done on the ground, in the storefront, and at the stove. Thank you again for the opportunity to be with you, and I look forward to our conversation in a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Oren. It's really a delight to have you with us today. And I think this combo of you and Senator Stabenow and our next guest is absolutely perfect. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our final speaker. You've referenced Q Broden. She is the founder and executive chef of The Kitchen by Cooking with Q. Q has a lifelong passion for food. She founded her blog, Cooking with Q, after her own personal journey, grappling with stage 4 sarcoidosis, I think it's pronounced, an autoimmune disease, which brought to light the connection between our health and the food that we eat. She decided that she had to change her own diet and become vegan, and she created Cooking with Q as a place where vegans and meat eaters can coexist, with the fundamental goal of promoting healthy eating and the benefits of plant-based eating in particular. Since launching her blog, Q has opened her own restaurant, The Kitchen, in Detroit, carrying on her mission of creating a space where meat eaters and vegans can coexist. It's Detroit's only demonstration kitchen with culinary shared space where guests can enjoy chef tastings and culinary demonstrations and classes. And it provides a platform for learning, experimentation, and private dining to celebrate the art of cooking, drinking, and gathering with a focus on plant-conscious food. Q's work urging people to eat to live has had a massive influence in Michigan and nationally, inspiring so many to embrace sustainable, healthy eating practices. Thanks, Q, for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule to be with us today. I'm really delighted you're here.
I am so grateful. Thank you guys for having me. I'm always willing to be a part of these conversations because I have people like you. Like, I feel like we have, like Senator Stabenow, we have a great leader. Thank you for representing us. I always say the little guys because we try to make sure our voice is heard, but it's always great to have someone that's right there in the fight to be able to get it done. And of course, Oren, you've been amazing since the first day I ever met you guys. I am very appreciative of the Fair Food Network and the Fair Food Fund. For me though, everybody, my name is Q, we're family, you know. My entire purpose is to just teach people how to eat to live by introducing more plant-based foods into everyday living. I don't want to force people to become vegan. I just want to force people to eat healthy because I feel like we all want to live a happier, healthier life. And what better way to do that is with food. We all know whatever you put in is what you get out. So that has been my mission. Just like the senator said, I feel like fresh food should be available to everybody. It should not be based off of your zip code. And I love that I'm not the only person that thinks that. I feel like everybody should have healthy food accessible. And she told us, we just opened up in 2019, and that has been our footprint, just trying to show people how to eat to live by any means necessary, whether they needed to learn new recipes, whether they needed to come to classes. We want to help people get it exactly how they need it. And that's been our entire mission. Even listening to all of us, we're all connected. When I hear everything that they're speaking of, the climate change affects everything. And for a person person that is in this industry, climate change affects the farmers. When it affects the farmers, it affects their crops and it affects their ability to be able to have a profitable business. And when they have issues, it trickles right down onto those who are trying to provide healthy food for us. So these are all things, even though it may seem small in some others' eyes, these are big issues. And I'm very glad that we have all of you guys to help represent and to help us stay sustainable, right? For me, getting with Fair Food Network has been an amazing process, because when the pandemic hit, I know I have family and friends who own businesses and restaurants who had to shut down. And the blessing for us is we didn't have to shut down one day, but I had one mission was, even if I can't have my clients coming to our location, the goal was, how do we get this food to them? And we wanted to get fresh food to families and friends all over by any means necessary. Initially, when the pandemic initially hit, we didn't know how we were going to stay open. We knew we wanted to. And in being the type of person that I am, I'm not afraid to vocalize that, hey, I know that we have people that are out there working in the field, the doctors, you know, the health department. There were people, the frontliners that were working that still needed to be fed. And what I wanted to do was, how can I make sure that everybody's fed? And when I reached out to my team over at the Fair Food Network, they immediately, when I say immediately, they immediately wasted no time to help me fulfill the mission, whether it was giving people meal preps, whether it was delivering food, whether it was delivering fresh grocery boxes to people who may have been laid off. The Fair Food Fund actually helped fund us. Literally, when I say it was the quickest process I've ever seen in my life. So I knew it had to be a blessing. And it also let me know that I was on the right path, because they saw the same mission. They wanted to make sure I don't think this is a place where people just talk about it. Everybody that I've been surrounded by team-wise there has been about helping us complete this mission. And they're still with us to this day. So again, I'm very, very happy to be a part of this conversation, because I'm very dedicated to making sure that people all across the globe can actually get fresh food. How long will it take to get from your farm to your fork? What are the farmers putting on the food, the fresh produce that you receive? I'm very grateful to be a part of this conversation, because ultimately it is how we survive. It is how we keep my 17 team members employed, and how we keep the people that are in our community having the access to fresh food. And again, like I say, I don't force people to be vegan. I just want people to want to understand what it's like to eat to live, and let that be the new topic of conversation. How do I help you live a happier, healthier, longer life? Because that's something that we all want, right? So thanks again, Lisa, for having me here. You guys are amazing. I'm just grateful to be a part of this conversation. I feel like the little guy and the big, but I'm with the big fish now. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, and your story is really inspiring. So I know we're going to have a ton of questions from the audience for both you and Oren. I'd like to begin that right now and get the questions and answers going. I want to remind folks that are tuning in on Zoom that you can click the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you can type in your question there. And those joining via Facebook Live, please submit your questions in the comment section of the live stream, and we're going to try our best to get to all of your questions. So I want to start with a question from Arthur for Oren. And the question is this: at Fair Food Network, what is the most common link that you see between healthy food access and climate change?
Yeah, you know, when we looked at the work of Project Drawdown, where a team of scientists from all around the world got together and asked themselves the question, what are the most critical actions that we can take to actually draw carbon out of the atmosphere to mitigate the impact of climate change? When they asked that question, and not without developing new technologies, those things that are here now, most of the top 100 actions we can take had to do with agriculture, food, and land use, most of them. And one of the very top issues had to do with shifting diet. So this is something that Q and I are both involved in. That if we can move toward a more plant-based diet, we are able to really help shift the carbon balance. And so we have realized, ourselves, where Double Up Food Bucks started as a project to really help people access, families who needed access more fruits and vegetables for their own personal health. And it's still that way. By encouraging and incentivizing a more plant-based diet, we are actually helping to make the most important shift in the food system that needs to be made in terms of mitigating climate change. So that's one that I think could be the most powerful thing that we're doing. But in addition, because our programs, whether it's Double Up or whether it's the Fair Food Fund or Michigan Good Food Fund, is always focused on creating more opportunities for local and regional production, for people to eat their food closer to where it's grown. And every time we do that, we're going to reduce food miles. We're going to reduce the amount of carbon it takes to get the food from farm to fork, which is, again, going to help mitigate how much carbon we're putting into the atmosphere. So those are the two places where I think our work in food access most sort of intersects with the climate change issue. Terrific.
Thank you very much. A second question has come in, and this one I think is for Q. And it would be great if we had Senator Stabenow here for this, but we don't. So the question is, what can elected officials do to improve healthy food access and lessen the burden on businesses like yours to provide healthy food to communities who need it the most?
Our biggest thing is accessibility. So for me in my business, my goal is I try to shop local because, again, like Oren said, how long does it take to get from the farm to my fork? The further out that you have to travel, number one, the more your produce costs. You just have to be honest with it. It's just like one day buying a cauliflower for $1.99 and now it's $4.99. To nobody, to the smaller picture, you don't pay attention to it. So for me, I like to be able to make it so, like, when I'll use this example, when the pandemic hit, prices of everything shot up. And number one, you got one person who changed it because they're like, you can't go get it from anywhere else. If it could be organized, or where we can say, hey, we know there's a pandemic, we shouldn't be able to skyrocket. One cauliflower shouldn't go from $1.99 to $5.99. It should be something where we can measure where it doesn't, because you will put a small business owner out of business. We look at every single thing. I see somebody with an apple, I know how much I pay for each apple. So I look at every single thing. So for us, those things matter, just being able to regulate the pricing on the produce, because we know, and for me, that's why we try to make menus based off of what is readily available. When you don't make menus off of what's readily available and you have to get food from further, it costs way more. It costs way more than for me to go to my local Easter market and say, hey, I need to go buy 10 cauliflowers, and they're $1.99 because they only drove a couple miles as opposed to me having to have it travel over state lines. So for me, I'm the little guy, and that's what the little guy wants. We want to be able to make it where you regulate how we get billed for things, because we spend a lot of money on the produce. And unfortunately, if I say it costs a little bit more for you to eat healthier, I have to tell people, like, suck it up. You want to live a healthier life, you just have to pay attention to what you spend your money on. Or another goal for me is telling people to start gardening. Like, tell people to stop eating so much fast food and let's bring it back home. Let's teach the kids in school how to actually cultivate land and grow their own food. Those are things that are in my head, that's important to me. And I feel like we should have more access to be able to speak about it, and people being able to take what we're telling them to do and do that. Because I feel like marketing for us, go buy something fast food, simple and easy. Why can't I show you how to cultivate the land at your home, make a garden, eat from your garden, have more local farmers that don't have to worry about prices skyrocketing for them to get it, or a change in the weather. That, look at the rain we just got a few weeks ago, that cut out a lot of farmers' crops that they can't sell. That's how they build their business. And if a farmer, again, has an issue, if they have an issue with the profits that they can make, it's going to be an issue for us because we can't get what we need from the farmers. So my biggest thing would just say regulating it.
Mm-hmm. So Richard has asked a question I think is appropriate for both of you. And I would actually expand Richard's question a little bit to say both at the state and federal level, but he's wondering what bills are either in the Michigan Legislature or in Congress right now that address this priority of access to fresh and healthy foods? And are these bills that we should all be aware of and that we should be working on, or specifically, I guess, for Michigan LCV, and make sure that we're supporting your good work?
So I can start that. And let me start with the state of Michigan. So we know that just this week, our governor signed a $17 billion bill for education, the largest amount that we have ever spent in this state per year for education. And in that bill was a real victory for all of us working on these issues. And that was a $5 million appropriation for what's called 10 cents a meal. And basically what that does, this can provide every school district in the state a grant to provide an additional dime for every school meal that can only be spent on Michigan grown produce, either fruits, vegetables, or dry beans. So it's a win for Michigan farmers. It's a win for Michigan families. It's a win for Michigan kids. And, everybody who supported that, we should give them our thanks. That's really huge. In terms of the Double Up Food Bucks program, we are still working to gain state support, to continue state support for Double Up. We're faced with a surge in demand for this program still. The number of folks who are receiving SNAP benefits, the number of families, the amount of SNAP benefits that are now out there, the demand for Double Up has surged like crazy. And, doubling this year from last year. And while we have the federal money that Senator Stabenow has worked so hard to be able to get us in the Farm Bill, that money has to be matched by non-federal money. And we have, philanthropy is stepping up to do this. We need the state of Michigan also to be generous in providing matching money so we can meet this demand for Double Up Food Bucks. So that's one very specific budget initiative that has not finished yet, that is going to need to finish for the state of Michigan. And of course, on the federal level, we all need to be putting our support behind Senator Stabenow and her leadership with the Farm Bill. That's the place. It's going to be reauthorized probably in 2023, which means that toward the end of this year and going into next year is the time when we're going to be having very serious conversations about, how to take nutrition incentives and move them from where they are now to a much higher scale, knowing that it's a successful program and can scale to a much higher level now. And also with the healthy food finance to provide federal funding to match some of the philanthropic dollars that go into things like the Michigan Good Food Fund, to be able to expand the kind of support that was there for Q when she needed it to pivot her business. We need more of that, and Senator Stabenow can help us with that.
I concur. And the Double Up Bucks program, we're actually one of the locations where people can come and grab their actual forms for the Double Up Bucks. We've been doing that since I opened. I think that's the greatest thing that I've ever seen, because you don't see, that's not the big push. Honestly, 10 years ago, it wasn't a big push for eat vegetables. Like, no, you know what I mean? And now I feel like for that in education, because I feel like if the kids are our future for tomorrow, we should start them when they're young. It's the same thing that we used to do when I was young. I had home ec, so I was taught how to cook, you know what I mean? Now I feel like we should take the kids back to the basics too. Teach them about agriculture, because these are things like, I don't want to leave them to YouTube. Like, that's my whole thing. I'm like, I don't want to leave the kids to YouTube. I want them to be educated on what a healthy meal looked like. We've been working on things to do with the Detroit Detroit Public Schools to do the same thing, where we could come in and show them, I need to show you what a healthy meal looks like. Let me show you what your food channel should be, what you should be eating, what a real plate looks like. Because I think that's not, I don't think there's a lot of focus on that. And I feel like it should, because these are the people who are going to be leading tomorrow. So we may as well start teaching them today on what it's like to eat to live, and know what it takes to actually live a healthier, happier lifestyle.
Thank you both for those answers. There's a question here from Bill. I think this goes to you, Oren, but you know, welcome both of you to respond to this. But it's in relationship to the problem that we're facing in our Great Lakes from toxic algae, and a lot of the runoff pollution from agriculture is linked to this, these growing swaths of really massive algae, especially in places like Lake Erie, right? And it's linked in large part to things like concentrated animal farms. And Bill wonders if we can, how we help people and elected officials understand the connections between water pollution and food and work to solve this problem.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure how we convince elected officials of this. I mean, I know we have somebody in Senator Stabenow who understands it already, and in Senator Peters who understands this already. So, you know, we have a lot of elected officials who understand this. We need to think about, I mean, you know, there are always ways through public policy to regulate, and there are ways to incentivize. I think of it as a carrot and a stick, right? And sometimes you need one, sometimes you need the other, sometimes you need both. Hopefully, what we are doing by incentivizing more purchases of fruits and vegetables, we're actually using the carrot approach, literally the carrot approach, right? You don't need the stick. When you give somebody a better tasting carrot, they go after it. So part of the solution actually is in shifting consumer demand. And part of that's, as Q was saying, is through education. And at times we're going to need proper regulation. We're going to need, and you know, Lisa, this is where your organization does great work, is thinking about like what kind of legislation do we need to help regulate some of the practices that could be harming our surface waters in the state and across state lines. So it's really a both and approach in my view.
I appreciate your answer, and I appreciate your carrot and stick, you know, commentary. I think of all the things that all three of you have, and both of you and Senator Stabenow have pointed out about farmers in a role of being heroes, right? As it pertains to the potential of what can really be done to not only provide us with the healthy food that we're talking about, it's so necessary, but also to be the leaders in climate. It seems to me that, you know, if we could find a way to incentivize, you know, good practices around, you know, raising livestock, and I mean, some of it might need to be regulated, right? But there's also sort of this way to work to make sure that farmers are celebrated as well as held accountable. And there's got to be a happy medium in this, because they really are as close to the, you know, to understanding climate change with their hands in the earth, right, as any of us could be. So, well, let me maybe finish with a final question. Well, I want to just acknowledge that Bo has said, you know, Q, that you've made a great point, that we can make our food systems better if we change the way we learn about food and home, and, you know, culinary arts and have largely disappeared from school curriculum. So people aren't actually getting that at school. Yeah, and now we have a chance, as this conversation gets bigger and louder, to maybe, you know, reintroduce it into the school. So he really appreciates your leadership and your comments on this. So thank you. And I know we're winding down, so I want to make sure I ask a final question from Russell for both of you. What are your plans to overcome resistance from the current unhealthy food producers? Because I mean, that's a big sector. You know, how are you tackling that? So that's for both of you.
You know, you want to start, Q?
my first thought process or was I don't attack them. It's just getting people to understand that we can have better. So I'm never, I'm never going to like stomp down I'm not going to do it, but people have to understand. And that's the difference. You have to give things to people in smaller doses, right? Make it simple. If you can show me how to do something simple and I can implement it as soon as I get home, that's what people need. So it's not to fight the other folks. It's just to make sure I give the knowledge to the people who can, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, we can all eat. There's room enough for all of us, right? But the goal is to make sure the folks who I'm trying to talk to, they want to eat better. If anything that we learned within the last year and a half, it is that what you put in your body makes a difference, right? How can your body already be prepared to fight for something that it doesn't know about unless we tell them? Again, tell people, let them be educated so that they understand the difference of eating a bag of chips or a fast food joint that is not caring about what put in your body, to knowing what my fresh fruits and vegetables look like. A snack doesn't always have to be a cake. A dessert doesn't always have to be a cake. People just need to be told it. And all of us want to, honestly, we want to be told, we want to know what's going on. But you just have to make it that it's in a digestible morsel. It just has to be something that I can understand and provide to them. And once they learn, when people learn better, they will go after the better, but they have to know about it, right? The kitchen is located in a place that was a dilapidated area. This was not the area. You're not going to find a fresh produce market. You're not going to find a fresh grocery store. But again, these things don't change until there's a lot of little guys making a bunch of noise, and then it becomes big noise. Nobody thought they would ever want to eat healthy food at a vegan spot from this girl that went to a Detroit public school. But guess what they're doing? They're understanding it because I give it to them in their morsels so you can understand, and it'll make it easier for you to do it. That's how we are. We're people. And I tell people all the time, like, you want to get marketed to, but I'm not here to put the frills and bows on it. When you go to the grocery store, look at your fruits and vegetables. If they're shining, that means there's lip gloss on it. Take it off, get fresh produce. If you go to an apple orchard, the apples aren't shining on the tree. If you get a watermelon off the ground, it's not shining. It's dirty. Shop with your local farmers because get your food fresh. That's my fight. That's my fight.
Lauren, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but
I just love being in the company of Q and just bathing in her enthusiasm. It's fabulous. I want to go out and get a watermelon now. Here's the thing. My experience with farmers and agriculture goes all the way back when I first came to Michigan, 30 years ago, working in extension at Michigan State University, working with farmers all over the state. And, most farmers actually want to do the right thing environmentally. Most farmers understand they are also in business and they need to make a living if they're going to stay farming. And so this balance between, doing things that are right for the environment and doing things that are right for the financial sustainability of my business, that's a delicate balance. And the more we can work with our farmers to help them find that balance, to help them maintain that balance, finding common ground with environment and economy is really important. Understanding that farmers are one of the most important parts of the solution to the climate and environmental issue. They're not part of the problem, they're part of the solution. And we need to understand that and work with our farmers on that. I also think about a great experience I had when we were the first year, we were starting Double Up Food Bucks at Eastern Market. And there were farmers that were kind of skeptical about this. So you're going to be attracting more poor people to buy from me. I don't know if that's going to work. And so farmers the vendors at the market could either sign up to use Double Up or not. And there were some who did and some who didn't. And I stood there one day and I was watching the line grow at the stall where they were offering Double Up Food Bucks. And I saw people moving over from the line where they weren't offering it. And I came back to the market the next week, and guess what? The guy over there that hadn't been offering it, he was now. And so, it spread because it was in the interest, it was in the financial interest of the farmer to change. So we have to find ways to make it in the interest of the farmer to change in ways that are in a healthy direction for people and in a healthy direction for the environment. And, you know, if we're working together and we're working together with policymakers like Senator Stabenow, I believe there's all kinds of common ground we can find to make this happen in the future.
Well, in an era where we very much need common ground, I'm really so grateful for your work, for your enthusiasm, for your dedication. This has been a really, really great conversation. I wish it didn't have to end, but we are at time. So I want to thank both of you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do. Maintaining access to healthy foods, as you both pointed out, is critical to the quality of life for all of us here in Michigan and across this country. And I not only appreciate your time and your expertise, but I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with a broad audience. As we continue to tackle our work at Michigan LCV, tackling climate change and protecting the health of our communities, we are always looking for volunteers. So you might have seen a volunteer opportunity pop up on your screen. I hope that you will answer that and get involved with us, and we will be in touch with you immediately if you answered yes. And Oren and Q, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank all of you who tuned in this evening. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure's mine, Lisa. Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. You're amazing. Have a good day. Later, guys.
Bye-bye.